Well, thank you everybody for joining us on another session of Global Technopolitics Forum's research team on a Sunday meeting. Outside is lovely and sunny, so thank you for being here. I'd like to start by welcoming Haley. Haley, maybe you want to introduce yourself to the team?
Yeah, of course. I'm Haley. Hi, I'm a current sophomore now I'm a junior, sorry, at University of Southern California. I am majoring in geodesign. I am from Washington, D.C., where I will currently be. I'm traveling this week, so I'm going to be back in D.C. over the summer.
Thank you very much and welcome. So next, I think I'm going to ask Dariush to talk because I like Haley and Dariush to meet and work together. So Dariush, I saw your paper and I think great improvement. You've done great job. So would you like to talk about your project and also make sure you communicate with Haley after our meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, for what I did to my paper was basically from when I got graded for my class, I made those improvements. As well, I've added more subheadings. I've broken it up a little bit more. I feel like it just helps it make it more readable. And then I also added visuals. I didn't make any, but I found all the visuals that I needed online. So I was just kind of looking at again at Firza and Joy's white paper and trying to emulate it a little bit. And then other than that, I did like redo some of the grammatical things like calling countries it and whatnot. But yeah, the main thing was, the main improvement was the visuals. I think it helps the paper a lot.
A lot. And maybe you want to give, say a few sentences so Haley would know what is your paper is about. I know we all know, but Haley doesn't.
Oh,
just a few sentences, yeah.
So it's basically about how emerging corridors of physical and built on that physical, the digital corridors in the world that are being controlled by the Belt and Road and India's INSTC, for example. A lot of these projects are now involving Central Asia. So the paper is just talking about how, what kind of development is happening in Central Asia, who are the actors, how is it going to transform global order moving forward, and the sort of the conclusion it comes to is that China definitely has a dominant position in that region, just by a lot of their national interests coincide with the resources that are there, and since it's such a central and key geographical piece of land, it has a lot of bearing. Who's going to be controlling it moving forward? Who's going to be developing it and setting those norms? So, yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you. So next, Leo, maybe you want to talk about your project last week, your report.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So for 5G, Echo and I have started working on our white paper. We coordinated and figured out we'll start writing about the 5G infrastructure first, because that's probably going to be the meatiest part of the paper. So we started on that. I wrote about, at least for me, what I thought the three key elements are, which is spectrum, network splicing, and sophisticated and newer antennas. And then Echo started writing about standalone deployment, which means a full 5G experience, and non-standalone deployment, which is a 5G experience with some 4G mixed in there. So we started writing about that, kind of rough draft right now. And we're going to meet over the next week to read each other's parts, see what more we can add. And our overall plan is that finish that infrastructure first, because that's the biggest part of the paper. then probably get to the costs and benefits, then leave the introduction conclusion to the end. So in terms of timeline, probably next 1 or 2 weeks finishing out that infrastructure section.
And when are you aiming to finish the white paper?
For the overall white paper, we haven't figured that out yet. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah, that would be good to have a structure and know that, what is the overall aim. Yeah, Greg?
Yeah, let me catch up. I still haven't had a chance to read the latest drafts, but I will. I'm finally dug out from grading.
No worries, yeah. Yeah, actually on that I put, so I guess in my folder, I'll be putting whatever Echo and I write each week for anyone to see, and then just keep updating from then on.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Thank you. It's actually great work. I looked at what you have done and it's very good. Next, Jennifer, would you like to talk about your paper? Jennifer?
Yes, sorry. Okay. So I don't know if you looked at my paper for this week, but I was trying to get started on what we spoke about last week, which is the longer form paper on the implications of colonial pipelines and how it's going to possibly, either unleash states to start attacking each other's critical infrastructure via ransomware or reinforce the norms that have already existed. But right now I'm kind of struggling with all of the research like about former ransomware attacks by state actors, because there's like not that much information out there about them. And in order to, look ahead, I first kind of need to look backwards. So I just didn't really get anywhere really tangible this week as I tried to get my bearings on the topic. So I would love some maybe guidance or anywhere you think would be helpful to start as I try to look forward after looking back.
Okay, Greg, any comments?
No, it's another one I need to catch up with. Sounds like you've been doing good stuff, but let me take a look and get back to you.
Okay, I definitely didn't get really anywhere far this week for sure on it. Right. So I'm hoping this week I make a lot more progress.
And I'm sure Maura will get back to you. She, as you know, she's on the road and yes, she was trying to join us. She may or may not join today, but I'm sure she will be in touch with you, Jennifer. And there is a parallel between your work and Dan. So I suggest you communicate with Daniel because both of you were working on current hack. And last thing, please, Jennifer, make sure you put your name on every paper you produce, because the minute it's out of folder, it's difficult to figure out who wrote that paper. So on the title, you see, you can put your name and then date and whatever else you need to put, but make sure that you have your name on your papers.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay, so next, we go to Tui. Maybe Tui, would you like to talk about your project last week?
Yeah. Really, going through the European experiences, my work focused on the who controls and the who really own media facilities in those countries. I was advised to look into European case studies, or going through some of the European countries, especially the countries within the EU zone. I discovered that they share same values with that of America. America has free freedom of media and media enterprises, to private individuals and private firms. So I discovered that going through, writing on European experience would be kind of tautology, repeating what America is doing. I felt, they share the same value, same concept, except for Russia and few other countries in Europe who are to an extent autocratic. Or to an extent authoritarian regime. And I'm not going to regime precisely. I'm going to media influence on election and who controls and directs the force of the media. And I feel it's going to be very cumbersome, or it's going to be so meaningful, bringing on board European experience. You know, I just want to like stay within America and Uganda.
Okay, all right.
Research. That's why I didn't do much on that.
Okay, so there is a slight difference because while the values are shared in European side, there is more regulation and there's some differences in terms of emphasis put on various values. But I suggest you continue with the 2 countries you selected, do your comparative studies, and then if there are gaps, we can add something. And I'm sure Mauro is gonna add some comments. Greg, any comments?
No, I think it makes sense to focus on the 2 countries for the time being, and then later, if it makes sense, to add something or spread it out a bit. No, it sounds
if needed, yeah. Eduardo, any comments?
Yeah, I do. A quick comment. I noticed there's some news coming out of a small country in Africa, which I think might be useful for TUI's research on social media in power in the developing world. It's news coming from Mauritius. I don't know if any of you saw this, but the government has proposed, and it looks supposed to ratify a new law that would make all information go through government servers. So everything that is posted online, social media, would have to go through government servers. It seems like a small thing, but I think it maybe preempts a wider and bigger movement amongst many developing countries in the future, in which you will see this type of legal position being taken. Only Kazakhstan tried it in the past, but under international pressure, they were forced to back down. But I think that it makes sense for developing governments to do this. I'm not going to express my opinions on the ethics of it, but essentially, it's a struggle over who controls the internet. I'll paste the article here in the chat, but I think that we're going to see more countries do this, and I think it's essentially can be framed as an anti-colonial framework type justification, because it really boils down to, do we control the dialogue, or does some American corporation control the dialogue?
interesting.
It's sorry, may I come in? Sorry, may I come in?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Eduardo, you made a very powerful submission here. That's to do with censorship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Government censoring,
Yes.
goes to the public domain. And I think that is a bit different from what I'm working on, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has to do with election and media, new media and electioneering. There are factors that I'm going to look into while coming up with this project. Illiteracy is one of those things. And unprofessionalism of the journalists we have on the media is another thing I'm looking into. And your submission there is a bit different from my approach. When government censor,
Okay, feel free to ignore it, Tui. It's just some context.
Yeah. So I think it's better to you explain more in your proposal, so we get a better picture of exactly what you're doing and what kind of data you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a good next step. Yep.
Yeah, and on that note, Eduardo, I wanted to, unfortunately, I didn't have time to put the workshop on our line. I was traveling. So I suggest that we add you to our Twitter, and from now on, when you have a announcement, just go ahead and do it. So that way we won't delay you, okay? So I will be in touch with you, Eduardo, and that way I think it will be easier for you to make any kind of announcement in future.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that I think that make it easier, because sometimes, for whatever reason, if I'm busy, then, it delays things, and yeah, that would be better. Okay, and I don't know if Paul is here.
Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
I'm here.
Hi, Paul.
Yep.
Okay, hello, Paul. So
In
Paul,
all my
would you-
glory, such
Well,
as it
great
is.
to have you.
Which is quite glorious. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So Paul, do you want to talk about your work this week?
Yeah. So I launched the campaign to try to generate donations. I haven't looked over the last day. So far, I don't think we've gotten $1 million received yet, Paddy, but I think there's still some hope. And I think two things. One is based on the results and the analysis that we can do from the upcoming week, then I think we can refine the campaign and maybe relaunch it.
Exactly.
And then the second thing is we had talked about a couple of other campaigns that we thought about targeted at a couple of different areas. So maybe over the next day or two, we can synchronize on that and just align on what the next target should be. And then we can create a campaign for that one. So that would be my ideas, next steps.
Okay, after Tuesday, I'm free, so we can set a date. And also always remember, we can ask Google to look at it and advise how to make it more successful.
Perfect.
So they can do that as well. But we'll go
Yeah.
through it and then we do that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, Anna, would you like to talk about your work last week?
Yes, hi. So this week, what I've been mainly doing, I'm still working on the wiki page, and I was addressing the main issue of building a reputation with Wikipedia. So I got to the stage where I'm an auto-confirmed user. So I had to edit like 10 wiki pages. And it was actually really good because I got to know more about the policies and things, what people tend to do when their pages don't get accepted. There are some issues that I'm not quite sure how we can potentially get around. So I'll explain. The first thing is that we need notable sources. And what that means is it's because it's not so much about what our company has to say about themselves, but what other sources say about us.
Anna, I think the best is you start with Greg's profile, and by creating a page for Greg, that way, and I have all the documents, so I can send it to you. I'm busy up to Tuesday, but I will send it after Tuesday. So there is so much reference to his name. So through those references, it's very easy to create a page for him. And once you create that page, then through his page, you can create the global technopolitics. So so let's first start with his page, and then we strategize how to go about the organization.
That's fine. Yeah, and I think now that I'm auto-confirmed, it helps out a lot as well.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we will be in touch after Tuesday.
Sure thing.
Yeah, so Eduardo, is there anything you want to discuss this week?
I can update that as far as the book goes, I'm kind of in the twilight zone of waiting for replies. So I'll update you all when I get the first, hopefully, glimmers of some kind of a interest from editors there. I've only sent it to about 6 or 7. Then I'll wait, see what happens, and maybe send it to another batch. I've been told that's the best approach. A quick update. Remember that event that I was planning about the COVID passport? Apparently that's been canceled. So if you haven't heard from me about that, it's because it was canceled for the moment. So just wanted to give you an update about that. If there's any changes, I'll let you all know.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Eduardo, are you sending these to different publishers directly, or are you sending through an agent?
No, I'm not going the agent route. Greg, you suggested to go for university presses, and I agree with that. I think that bigger type trade presses, you have to have some kind of a fame already established before they take you seriously. So I'm going for university presses. I've selected the top 10 that I think publish in this field. For example, Oxford, but also MIT Press and some others, because they've published a lot of books in this field. So I'm hoping that that's going to be a leg up.
Good, good.
And then I've got the following batch, and eventually I'll, if needed, I'll go with more trade type presses like maybe Palgrave or Sage, Routledge, which might also publish in this.
Hopefully one of the universities will publish, and that's quite good for this. Well, best of luck. Anyone wants to discuss anything?
You want to talk, Dan?
Yeah, I guess I can just quickly go over what I said earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you.
No problem. I just I wrote up in a follow-up to the Colonial Pipeline attack, like short kind of blog post I wrote last week. This one's kind of like 2 weeks out, like what additional information we know. Still not 100% attribution, but most people can kind of agree on that the perpetrator was this criminal group called Dark Side. Biden spoke on the topic, kind of also to address his cybersecurity executive order. And he stated that currently our government doesn't think that there was any like nation state attribution to the attack. So like he doesn't think Russia was behind it, even though the forensics that's been conducted on the attack have like provided information that says that at least the attackers came from like Eastern Europe or Russia, but they're not nation state actors. And then yeah, I'm meeting with Professor Godinez next week to kind of go over some finishing stuff on my white paper. So hopefully we'll get that out soon.
Daniel, so attackers were actually in Russia or Eastern Europe?
Well, Biden in his speech, he says that like our government agencies believe that the attackers were located in Russia, but all of the private security like Waterfall Solutions and FireEye, they've both, when they've talked about Dark Side, like the group itself, they've mentioned that they're Eastern European. So I'd assume there's probably some like crossover. But yeah, I mean, we're still pretty early. Oh, and then the big, like the really big update was that the CEO for Colonial Pipeline paid the ransom to essentially just get like an encryption key to be able to access the like locations and there's like whatever it was on their servers that was locked.
Oh, good. I'll look forward to reading that. It sounds good.
Yeah, and it will be published shortly.
Right.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to mention anything? Any comments?
I can give a quick kind of bullet point summary of the main takeaways from the conference at NYU last Tuesday, which I think might be interesting to folks here. It was a conference on early warning, early action, and how technology is being used to predict and prevent violence around the world. And one of the main takeaways, which I thought was interesting, and I'd like to share here with all you, is that there seems to be a pushback amongst UN agencies and even some governments to include this type of technology. And we always tend to think of technological advances as something positive that governments might want to absorb into their operations in a way that can bring benefit. But it was interesting to see how many are experiencing that. In particular, at the UN, there's a kind of anti-technology pushback against technologies that have predictive capacity for violence. And the speculation may be that creates extra responsibilities, which governments and intergovernmental organizations are not too eager to have at the moment.
Very interesting.
Yes. Eduardo, what are the technologies that are in dispute?
So this conference, it was a kind of a hybrid conference. There were academics, policymakers, and also people from the private sector that were pitching their technologies.
Right.
And there's a large number of startups, including the one I'm involved in, Peloria Insights, that use essentially a combination of predictive analytics and all sorts of big data collecting, including satellite imagery and most lately audio, transcription of audio to text and audio to tone, especially in contexts in which there's not a lot of social media data. For example, there's one company that's doing this in Yemen, and they're taking all the radio and TV stations and they're transmuting that into structured tone data. And they can predict whether there's going to be flare-ups of violence from this or that community. So that's the type of technology that was being showcased at this event.
Interesting. That's fantastic.
Eduardo, I have a question. When you say tone, do you mean like sentiment analysis?
Yeah, well, it's the next level of sentiment analysis because it's the actual like vocal cords.
Ah.
So, yeah. So apparently there's some psychological dispositions that are betrayed by the actual like wavelength.
Okay. Okay. So this is more fundamental than someone's written expression or even spoken expression. It actually is the vocal cords and what you can divine or glean from the tone that you can determine from the way the person's talking.
Yeah, and it's cross-cultural. It's all humans have the same universal basic, apparently 24 tones. Empathy, anger, contempt. So.
It's really interesting.
And has that been triangulated with what the content actually is, I mean, with what they're actually saying?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Then you take the sentiment of the text as well.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you lay that with hundreds of other types of data sets.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So be careful of tone, not just what you say online, but you got to be careful how you say it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to practice maybe modifying my tone a bit.
I'm sure the technology will catch up with you, Paul.
Yes.
Eduardo,
it
already has. It already has. Can't you tell? I mean, yeah, no, I'm already behind the curve.
Okay. Well, any other comments from anybody? No? Then I think thank you everybody for being here. Have a wonderful week, and we will communicate during the week and see you next week. Take care. Best of luck. Bye-bye.
Good week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.